Once upon a time, there was an old man from Hubei who was away on business in another town, leaving only his wife at home. One night, his wife had a dream that she was sleeping with someone else. When she woke up and touched, she found a short and small man beside her. He didn't look like a human, and she realized it was a fox. In a short while, the fox got off the bed without opening the door and disappeared. On the second night, the woman asked the servant who cooked for her to accompany her. She also called her 10-year-old son, who usually slept in a different bed. After everyone fell asleep, the servant and the child were both asleep, the fox came again. In her dream, the woman murmured and spoke, which startled the servant awake. She screamed loudly, and the fox left. Since then, the woman became confused, wandering around all day as if she had lost something. At night, she didn't dare to turn off the light and sleep. She told her son not to sleep too deeply. Late at night, the child and the servant dozed against the wall. When they woke up, the woman was gone. They thought she had gone to the restroom. After waiting for a long time with no sign of her return, they began to suspect. The servant was afraid and didn't dare to search, so the child went alone, holding a lamp, and searched the courtyard. He arrived at another room and found his mother lying naked inside. The child went forward and helped her up, and the woman didn't seem embarrassed. Since then, the woman went mad, crying and singing all day, shouting and scolding. At night, she hated living with others, making her son sleep in another bed, and she also drove away the servant. Every night, when the child heard his mother laughing, he got up with a lamp and checked. His mother would angrily scold him, but the child didn't mind. Because of this, everyone praised the child for being brave. Afterward, the child began to behave recklessly, imitating bricklayers every day, blocking windows with bricks and stones. People didn't dare to provoke him, as he would roll on the ground and cry like a spoiled child if someone took a stone off the window. After a few days, both windows were sealed, leaving no light. Then, he blocked holes in the wall with mud. He stayed busy all day, never feeling tired. When the wall holes were sealed, with nothing else to do, he took a kitchen knife and kept sharpening it. People were annoyed by his mischief, and no one wanted to pay attention to him. One night, the child put the kitchen knife in his pocket and held a dipper with a lamp. When his mother started talking in her sleep, he quickly removed the dipper, illuminated the area, blocked the doorway with his body, and shouted loudly. After a long while, there was no movement. He left the doorway, threatening to search, making it seem like he was about to search. Suddenly, something resembling a wild cat darted towards the doorway. The child quickly swung the knife at it, only cutting off its tail. The tail was about 2 inches long and still dripping blood. At first, when the child lifted the lamp, his mother would scold him incessantly, but the child ignored it. After not being able to kill the fox, the child regretted deeply and had to lie down again. He thought that even though he hadn't killed the creature, he was glad it wouldn't come back again. At dawn, the child saw the trail of blood left by the fox leading over the wall and followed it. He tracked the blood until it led to the garden of the He family. At night, the fox indeed didn't come, and the child was secretly pleased. However, the woman still lay there, as if dead. Soon, the old man returned. He came to the bedside to inquire about his wife's condition. The woman cursed him as if he were an enemy. The child recounted what had happened, and the old man was shocked. He called a doctor to treat her with medicine, but she still cursed even when the medicine was applied. The old man mixed the medicine in water and had her drink it. After a few days, she gradually calmed down. Father and son were both very happy. One night, after waking up, they didn't find the woman. They found her again in another room. From then on, the woman went mad again, refusing to live with her husband. When it got dark, she ran to another room on her own. If anyone tried to stop her, she would curse them even more harshly. The old man was at a loss and locked all the doors of the other rooms. But whenever the woman went there, the doors would open on their own. The old man was very worried. He invited a monk to perform a ritual to drive away the fox, but it had no effect. One day, at dusk, the child sneaked into the He family's garden, hid in the thick bushes, and tried to investigate the fox's traces. As the moon rose, he suddenly heard people talking. The child pushed aside the branches and saw two people sitting on the ground drinking, with a long-bearded servant holding a wine pot serving on the side. They were wearing dark brown clothes, speaking very softly, and their conversation was vague and hard to hear. After a while, one of them said, "We can go get a bottle of white wine tomorrow." Then, both of them left. Only the long-bearded servant remained. He took off his clothes and slept on a stone in the courtyard. The child carefully observed and saw that the servant's limbs were just like a human's, but he had a tail hanging behind him. The child wanted to go back, fearing that the servant might notice him, so he squatted in the thicket all night. Before dawn, he heard the same two people coming again, speaking softly, and entering the bamboo grove. The child then returned home. When his father asked where he had been at night, he answered, "I was at uncle's house." One time, the child followed his father to the market. He saw foxtails hanging for sale in a hat shop and begged his father to buy one. The old man disagreed, but the child clung to his father's clothes, whined, and made a fuss until his father gave in and bought one. While his father was busy in the market, the child was playing around. He stole some money when his father wasn't looking and ran away. He first bought a bottle of white wine, which he left in the corridor of an inn. He had an uncle living in the city, making a living by hunting. The child went to his uncle's house and found him absent. His uncle's wife asked about his mother's condition, and the child said, "She's been a bit better these days. But because mice chewed up her clothes, she's been crying incessantly in frustration, so she sent me to get some hunting medicine." His uncle's wife then opened a box, took out a bit of hunting medicine, and wrapped it up for him. The child felt it was too little. She wanted to make dumplings for him, so the child took the opportunity to open the medicine package and secretly stole a handful, hiding it in his pocket. Then he quickly told his uncle's wife that she didn't need to cook, saying, "Father is waiting for me at the market. There's no time to eat." After saying that, he left. He went to the inn, mixed the stolen hunting medicine into the wine he bought, and wandered the streets for a while before finally returning home when it was dark. His father asked where he had been, and he lied, saying he had been at his uncle's house. From then on, the child roamed the streets, going from one shop to another. One day, he saw the long-bearded servant mingling with the crowd. The child recognized him and quietly followed him, striking up a conversation. The child asked where he lived, and the servant replied, "In the northern village." The child then asked the servant where he lived, and the child pretended, "I live in a cave in the mountains." The servant was surprised and questioned the child's living situation. The child smiled and said, "My ancestors have all lived in caves for generations. Aren't you the same?" The servant became even more surprised and asked for the child's name. The child said, "I'm from the Hu family. It seems I've seen you with two young men somewhere. Have you forgotten?" The servant scrutinized the child, half believing. The child lifted his shirt slightly, revealing a fake tail, and said, "We mingle with the crowd, but this thing won't go away. It's truly annoying." The servant asked, "What are you doing in the city?" The child replied, "My father asked me to buy wine." The servant told him that he was also buying wine. The child asked, "Did you get any?" The servant replied, "Most of us are poor, so we mostly steal when we can." The child sympathetically said, "Stealing is hard. Buying is easier. I've already bought a bottle. I'll give you this bottle of wine. I still have some money in my pocket, so I can buy another bottle." The servant felt embarrassed and didn't have anything to repay him with. The child said, "We're of the same kind. Why be stingy with these things? When we have time, I'll treat you to a big drink." The servant accompanied the child to the inn, where the child took out the bottle of wine and gave it to him. Then he went back home. At night, the The child's mother surprisingly slept soundly, no longer running outside. The child knew there was a reason for this and told his father. They went to the He family's garden together to investigate. They found 2 dead foxes in the pavilion and another dead one in the grass. Blood was still dripping from its mouth. The wine bottle was also there, and the child shook it. There was still some wine left. The old man asked in amazement, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" The child said, "Foxes are very clever. Once you leak information, they'll know." The old man joyfully exclaimed, "My child, you're like Chen Ping dealing with foxes." So, father and son carried the foxes back home, and they found that the tail of one of them was bald, with clear signs of a knife wound. From then on, peace finally returned to the old man's house. The woman became extremely thin from her illness, gradually understanding what had happened. But then she started coughing and spat up large amounts of phlegm. Not long after, she died. The woman from the North City's Wang family, who had been charmed by the fox before, went to inquire again and found that the fox had disappeared. Her condition improved gradually. The old man treasured his son because of these events and taught him horse riding and archery. Later on, the child grew up to become an official and rose to the rank of general.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.